If the market process is to function, the economic agents who participate in it must gear their behavior toward compliance with the law. In other words, they must adopt a number of patterned behaviors which have emerged in an evolutionary manner and make life in society possible. Basically, these behaviors pertain to the definition and defense of property rights. For the market process to function, property rights must be well defined and effectively defended. Only when property rights are well defined and effectively defended is it certain that each participant in the production process will reap the benefits of his entrepreneurial creativity and also bear the costs of his actions. If property rights are not well defined, because the state, which supposedly should address the matter, does a poor job of it, and in fact it does do a poor job of it, or if property rights are not well defended, because though they are well defined on paper, in the laws, in practice you can very easily be robbed, swindled, fleeced without the state's defending you, or if both are true at once, property rights are neither well defined nor well defended. When such is the case, systematically irresponsible actions inevitably result. Many economic agents will then be able to afford to undertake actions that involve costs they do not meet themselves, but rather place on the shoulders of others, third parties who take no part in those actions. When property rights are not well defined, due to negligence or deliberate action, and in fact frequently government authorities say, "Oh, private property is the worst. Let us declare that beaches, continental shelves, rivers and air are public property." Here, property rights are deliberately not well defined. When not only are they not well defined, deliberately or otherwise, but they are also not properly defended, when these phenomena occur, what we will call externalities arise. Externalities can be of two types. Take note. We will begin by discussing what are known as negative externalities, or external costs. These arise when certain people fail to bear the entire cost of their decisions and actions in the market, and instead they burden the rest of the economic agents with a large part of those costs. When negative externalities occur, we say that too much is produced, since cost is not taken into account, property rights not being well defined. In other words, when an economic agent does not consider all of the costs incurred in the production process, he produces a volume of output that exceeds the amount he should produce. One example of a negative externality would be air pollution. Imagine I own a car factory, and as a result of the manufacturing process, polluted smoke is released. The air carries the smoke, and it harms many third parties. However, I do not pay anything to offset the cost I am creating for other people. In this situation, I am producing too many cars. If I had to take that cost into account, my volume of output would be smaller. That is why it is said that when negative externalities are present, too much is produced. We could talk about a river. When a river is declared public, everyone pollutes it. Perhaps there is a factory, a paper mill. All of the cellulose waste is thrown into the river, and what happens to the river? It becomes filthy. The fish die. There is garbage everywhere, etc. If I had to pay to clean the river, to install a purification system, etc., I would produce less. Are negative externalities the fault of the market? Dear students, quite the opposite is true. Negative externalities arise when the market and its logic are not permitted to spread to all natural resources. Negative externalities are not the fault of the market, but of state intervention, which prevents the adequate definition of property rights, their defense, or both, due to either negligence or deliberate action. Dear students, when the Industrial Revolution began, general legal principles were applied in England through common law, and on many occasions, when a factory was polluting the air or a river, or a train sped through, sent out a spark, and set a neighbouring farmer's field on fire, those who felt harmed would file a claim with the corresponding judge to request compensation for damages, Do you know that it was deliberate action by the government, often on the pretext of encouraging or stimulating development, which legally prevented these claims from being successful? That is to say, such action prevented the correct definition and the defense of property rights. And what began implicitly has become commonplace nowadays, when pompous UN declarations state that the sea is by no means going to be privatized. That is unheard of. Or the beaches, or the rivers. Nevertheless, where do pollution problems exist? Do we have pollution problems in our homes? Can you even imagine, ding dong, our doorbell ringing, and when we open the door, our neighbour is standing there with a garbage can, and she dumps her garbage, all of her disgusting trash, in our house? No. Unless people are slobs, which cannot be ruled out, private homes are clean on the inside. But what about common areas? This reminds me of an old Spanish proverb. Do you know what it says? Take note. What belongs to everyone belongs to no one. What belongs to everyone belongs to no one. If everybody owns something, nobody owns it. How true that is. The common areas of a building are usually in disrepair, and the common areas of a park are usually dirty, as are shared rivers. This is due to the problem of what is known as the tragedy of the commons. If I am drinking a Coke and I throw the can on the ground, I internalize all of the benefit of not having to carry around pesky trash in my pocket all afternoon. I toss the can on the ground, and since I am leaving, I do not have to look at it. I leave the cost of the garbage distributed among the tens or hundreds of other visitors who may walk through the park after I do. The result? When a good is declared a public good, it is destroyed, spoiled, degraded, and contaminated. That is why the beaches are dirty, and that is why the air is polluted. Do you know how government authorities respond to pollution? By criticizing the market economy, those wicked entrepreneurs, and doing everything but what they should do. Instead of privatizing the resource, instead of privatizing the air, instead of privatizing the sea, instead of privatizing the rivers, instead of privatizing the mountains, instead of privatizing the beaches, authorities issue thousands and thousands of pages of regulations on what must be done. I want you to go to the bookstore and ask for the Environmental Code. It is insane. Socialism, plain and simple. If you want a river to be clean and full of fish, privatize it. All of the rivers in England are clean, and they are all private. They have private owners or communities of owners. No one pollutes a river there. Someone would immediately file a complaint, and a fine would be charged. There are high-end, low-end, and mid-range fishing clubs, and they are all clean. In the same way, we have restaurants from Zalakane to McDonald's, fast food. Do not think that if beaches are private, you will not be able to go to them. There will be beaches for everyone, a very wide offering of all kinds of beaches, and natural parks, etc. So, the solution to negative externalities is the privatization of resources. Capitalism, the market economy, spreading the logic of entrepreneurship and property rights to all the resources which at present have been declared publicly owned.